Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be doing my full 1 to 400 scale collection update for winter of 2024. If you don't know how these work, basically I have my entire collection laid out on one table, all 170 models that I currently own, which is absolutely insane in itself. And I go through each one of these models, tell you a little bit about each one, and I'll try to go pretty fast because of how many there are. Hopefully not make this video too insanely long. But I believe this is my first video of 2024, so I would like to wish you guys a very happy new year. And this will most likely be my last video before I leave for England, so I'm not entirely sure how content's going to proceed from here, but hopefully I can maintain some kind of consistency with that. So I'm going to kind of save most of my kind of rambling for the end of the video and go ahead and get started by getting straight into the collection. Starting here with United, the largest airline in my collection, we have a United Express CRJ 200 in the old livery, and then 2 in the new livery. We have 2 United Express CRJ 550s, a United Express Embraer 170, and 2 United Express Embraer 175s, both in the new livery. Next here we have 2 United Airbus A319s, a United Airbus A320, 2 United 737-700s, one in the old livery, one in the new livery. We're down to just 1 United 737-800. This is just the NG version. I actually sold my Gemini Jets version because that mold was just awful, so I'll probably get some more of these when NG does a re-release. We got 3 737-900s, 1 in the old livery and 2 in the new livery. We got 2 737 MAX 8s. Got our first 757-200, which is in the old livery, and this is the 2014 Gemini Jets release, I believe. And then over here we have 1 in the new livery. Next up we have 2 United 757-200s in the Her Are Here liveries. We have the California and the New York. We have a United 757-300 in the old livery and 1 in the new livery. We have a United 767-300 in the new livery, a United 787-9, and a United 777-200ER in the Star Alliance livery. Moving on to American, right here we have an American Eagle CRJ 200 and an Air Wisconsin CRJ 200, which of course operates for American Eagle. We have 2 American Eagle CRJ-700s, an American Eagle CRJ-900. We have 3 American Eagle ERJ 145s. One of these is the Envoy release and 2 of these are the Piedmont release. We have 2 American Eagle Embraer 170s, 1 regular and 1 in the Envoy Retro. We have a Republic Airways Embraer 175 with the standard winglets, which of course operates for American Eagle. And then finally we have 3 American Eagle Embraer 175s. All of these are the most recent Envoy release. Moving on to some American mainline right here, we have an American A319. We have 2 American A320s. We have the 2022 release with the CFM engines and the 2020 release with the IAE engines and the less than perfect color. We have 2 American 737-800s in the regular livery, and then 1 737-800 in the One World livery. We have a 737 MAX 8. We have an A321 in the flagship Valor livery, and an A321neo, that is the most recent release. Next up here we have an American 787-8. This is a brand new model that I just got, absolutely beautiful. It's the recent NG release. And then finally for American here we have a 777-200ER. Moving on to Delta, right here we have a Delta Connection CRJ 200, Delta Connection CRJ 700, 2 Delta Connection CRJ 900s. I actually was able to pick up a second one of these for quite a good deal. I only paid like $70 I think for it, which is pretty good for a model this rare. Next up we have our Delta Connection Embraer 170 and the brand new Delta Connection Embraer 175. So awesome to finally have this model in the collection. Moving on to mainline here, we have a Delta Boeing 717-200, a Delta Airbus A319, a Delta A220-100, Delta A220-300. We got 2 737-800s. Both of these are, I believe, the early 2010s Gemini Jets release. We have the Delta 737-900ER, the Delta MD-90, the Delta A321 in the Thank You livery, the Delta 757-200, and the Delta 757-300. And then finally for Delta, we got our two wide bodies, the 767-300, and of course the gorgeous A330-300. While we're over here, let's go ahead and get a couple of these guys. We have our Sun Country 737-800 and two E145s, JSX and Contour. Moving on to some other US carriers, starting right here, we have our Mesa CRJ-900. I wanted to put this over with United, but I couldn't really fit it in, so it's just hanging out over here. Next up, we have our Breeze Embraer 195 and our Breeze A220-300. We have a Southwest 737-700 in the Canyon Blue livery. Unfortunately, this will probably be the last collection update where I have this guy with the kind of up-to-date carriers, as last I checked, I think there's only six 700s left in this livery, which is super sad to see this livery going after so long. Such an iconic livery, but obviously I'm not going to get rid of this model. It'll just be moving over to the retro/retired aircraft, but yeah, still a gorgeous model. Next up, we have a Southwest 737-700 in the Heart livery. We have a Southwest 737-800 in the Heart livery. And then we have two Southwest 737 MAX 8s in the Heart livery. Getting into Alaska here, we have an Alaska Embraer 175, an Alaska 737-700, an Alaska 737-900ER, and an Alaska 737 MAX 9 in the West Coast Wonders livery. Next up, we have a JetBlue A220-300, a JetBlue A320 in the high-rise tail, a JetBlue A320 in the Blueberries tail with sharklets, and a JetBlue A321 in the Prism's tail. Next here we have an Allegiant A319, an Allegiant A320 in the Travel as Our Deal livery, and an Allegiant A320 in the new livery with sharklets. We have a Frontier A320neo in the Baja the Whale Shark livery, and a Frontier A321 in the Steve the Eagle livery. We have a Spirit A320, a Spirit A320neo, and a Spirit A321. Next up, getting into some kind of charter and cargo airlines here, we have our Eastern 767-300, our National A330-200, and starting with cargo here, we have our DHL 737-400, Amerijet International 767-300, we have a UPS 757-200, a UPS 767-300, and my only interactive series model, a UPS 747-8F. Next up, we have a FedEx 757-200, a FedEx 767-300, a Kalitta Charters 2 727-200, a Kalitta 747-400 in the Mask livery, and finally for the US here, we have my one and only up-to-date military model, a US Air Force Dover-based C-17. Getting into some international carriers here, we have an Air Canada Express CRJ-200, Air Canada Express CRJ-900, and an Air Canada A220-300. We have a WestJet 737-800, a Volaris A320neo in the Cien Aviones livery. We have an Aeromexico 737-800. We have an Iceland Air 737 MAX 8, and now we're kind of getting into Europe. Next here we have a Luxair Q400. We have an Aer Lingus Regional ATR 72-600. We have an Aer Lingus A321neo. We have a Ryanair 737-800. And next up here we have a British Airways BA City Flyer E190, a British Airways A319, And starting with some wide bodies here, we have a British Airways 787-8 and a British Airways 787-10. And switching to a new angle here because I could not stretch any further, we have a British Airways 777-200ER. I'm going to be flying on one of these aircraft in just 5 days as of the time of recording, which is really exciting. We have a British Airways A350-1000, a British Airways 747-400, and a British Airways A380. That is a fleet that has grown quite a bit. Moving on to my personal favorite airline, we have a Virgin Atlantic A330-300, a Virgin Atlantic A330-900, a Virgin Atlantic 787-9, a Virgin Atlantic A350-1000, and a Virgin Atlantic 747-400. Next up, we have an Air France A350-900, a KLM City Hopper E190, a KLM A330-200, a KLM 787-9 with the 100 years sticker, and a KLM 777-300ER. Next we have a Lufthansa A330-300, a Lufthansa 787-9, a Lufthansa A350-900, an Iberia A350-900, and an Austrian 777-200 in the 60 years livery. And moving on to our final few aircraft for the up-to-date collection, we have an ANA 787-9 in the R2D2 livery. We have a Japan Airlines 787-9, an El Al 787-9 in the Jerusalem of Gold livery, and an Emirates Airbus A380. Moving on to some retro / kind of no longer in service aircraft, we have this US Airways Express Embraer 170. We have a Continental 737-200 in the red contrails livery. We have a Civil Air 737-800, a National Airlines 757-200, an Omni Air International 757-200. We have an Allegiant 757-200. We have a United DC-8-21 in the Sawbass livery. Have an American 757-200 and an American 767-300 in the gorgeous chrome livery. I'd really like to get a couple more of these. This livery is just so pretty. We have a Delta MD-11 in the Colors and Motion livery. We have an Air Canada A340-300. Have an Iberia A340-300. Absolutely love this model. Have an Iberia A340-600. We have a TWA 747-100, a Transamerica 747-200, and a Malaysia 747-400. And ending it off right here, we have our two Concords, British Airways and Air France. And final aircraft here, we have our US Air Force B-29. It's kind of a really cool aircraft there. And just like that, that does conclude my full 1-400 scale collection update. I hope you guys did enjoy that. I really like doing these videos. It's just so cool seeing all my aircraft kind of just put out on one table. I mean, I really kind of don't realize how many I actually have until I've kind of got them all laid out. I've also kind of reached an interesting point in my collection because, I mean, I'm at 170 models, which is still insane to think about that I have that many model aircraft. I mean, the first one of these I had 30-something aircraft. So that's still just insane to think about. But I've also reached an interesting place in my collection where I've kind of reached the collection goal that I had originally set for myself, just kind of in my head, which was basically just building up a fleet of basically every aircraft that's operated by the US Big Three, as well as just a solid amount of aircraft from every other US airline and a solid amount of aircraft from kind of like Western Europe. And I've kind of reached that goal. So that's kind of an interesting place to be in my collection, where I just feel like my current collection is solid, and I can kind of focus on getting models that I would more just want to get than models that I feel like I need to get to reach my collection goal, which is kind of nice and refreshing in terms of a place to be. I'm just really happy with how my collection is and just how big it's gotten, how many models I have. I mean, I love all these models. It's just so cool looking at them. It's just awesome. I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost for words at this, but yeah, so I'm really just so happy with how my collection has come along. But yeah, so as I was saying earlier, this will probably be my last video before I leave for England. I leave in just 5 days, I think, as of recording this video. So I'm not entirely sure how content's going to go from here. I hope to keep somewhat consistent uploads. I've got a couple of videos I'm pre-recording to upload just kind of while I'm over there, and I hope to have a lot of trip reports because I'm going to be flying a lot while I'm obviously to and from the UK, but also just while I'm over there, trying some low-cost carriers. So hopefully just have some cool trip reports out for you guys. I'm really excited for it, but it is going to kind of throw off content. It's also going to throw off model collecting because, I mean, that trip isn't exactly cheap. All those flights aren't exactly cheap, and obviously models cost a lot of money, so I probably will not get a huge amount of new models between now and next summer, when I would usually do my next collection update. So I'm not entirely sure if I'll do one next summer. I may just wait a full year until next winter to do another one. So there's actually more growth in my collection, and it actually makes sense to do one. But I'll have to see on that. It kind of depends on how many models I end up actually getting and if I feel like it's warranted or not. All right, that was a lot of stuff I was just talking about, but I believe that's everything that I wanted to cover. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and if you have time, leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts. How many 1 to 400 scale models do you have? I would love to hear from you. And so yeah, with that, I hope you guys do have an absolutely incredible rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.